The space station Eclipse 9 was a marvel of engineering, a sprawling hub of commerce and culture at the edge of the galaxy. It was a place where species from countless worlds mingled, trading goods, stories, and sometimes even their hearts. For Ethan Voss, a human engineer who had spent the last 5 years repairing ships and tinkering with alien tech, the station was both a workplace and a home. But his life was about to change in ways he could never have imagined. It was during one of his rare nights off that he first saw her. She stood at the edge of the station's observation deck, her silhouette framed by the swirling colors of a nearby nebula. Her skin had a faint, iridescent glow, and her hair cascaded down her back like liquid silver. She was unlike anyone he had ever seen, ethereal, otherworldly, and utterly captivating. Ethan hesitated, unsure if he should approach her. But something about her drew him in, an invisible force that compelled him to step closer. When she turned to face him, her eyes, a deep, shimmering violet, locked onto his, and he felt as though the entire station had faded away. "You're human," she said, her voice soft but carrying an edge of curiosity. "And you're not," Ethan replied, smiling nervously. "I'm Ethan." "I am Lyra," she said, her lips curving into a faint smile. "I've never spoken to a human before." They talked for hours, sharing stories of their worlds and their lives. Lyra was from a distant star system, a place where her kind lived in harmony with the energy of the cosmos. She had come to Eclipse 9 on a mission she couldn't fully explain, but Ethan didn't press her. He was too entranced by her presence, by the way her laughter seemed to light up the room. As the night wore on, they found themselves in Ethan's quarters, the hum of the station's engines a quiet backdrop to their whispered conversations. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt a connection that went beyond words, a bond that transcended the boundaries of species and worlds. But as the first light of the station's artificial dawn crept through the window, Lyra was gone. Ethan woke up alone, the sheets still warm where Lyra had lain. For a moment, he wondered if it had all been a dream. But the faint scent of her, something like starlight and rain, lingered in the air, a reminder that she had been real. He tried to go about his day as usual, but his mind kept drifting back to her. Who was she? Why had she left without a word? And would he ever see her again? The questions gnawed at him, but there was no one he could ask. Lyra had left no trace, no clue as to where she might have gone. Days passed, and Ethan began to notice something strange. Whenever he walked through the station's corridors, he felt as though he was being watched. At first, he dismissed it as paranoia, but then he started seeing them, figures cloaked in shadow, their faces obscured, their movements too fluid to be human. They were always just out of reach, vanishing whenever he tried to approach. One night, as he was returning to his quarters, he saw one of the figures standing at the end of the hallway. This time, it didn't disappear. Instead, it stepped into the light, revealing a face that was both alien and familiar. The figure's eyes glowed with the same violet hue as Lyra's, but there was no warmth in them, only a cold, calculating intensity. "You've been marked," the figure said, its voice a low, guttural growl. "She should never have touched you." Before Ethan could respond, the figure was gone, leaving him alone in the dimly lit corridor. His heart raced as the words echoed in his mind. Marked. What did that mean? And what had Lyra done to him? Determined to find out the truth, Ethan began to piece together what little he knew about Lyra. He scoured the station's databases for any mention of her species, but there was nothing. It was as though she had never existed. Frustrated, he turned to the only other source of information he had, the shadowy figures that seemed to be following him. He started to track their movements, mapping out the times and places where they appeared. It wasn't easy, they were elusive, always one step ahead. But Ethan was persistent, and eventually, he managed to corner one of them in a deserted cargo bay. "Who are you?" he demanded, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and anger. "What do you want with me?" The figure hesitated, then pulled back its hood to reveal a face that was strikingly similar to Lyra's. "We are the Sentinels," it said. "We protect the balance of the cosmos. And you have disrupted that balance." "What are you talking about?" Ethan asked, his confusion growing. "I haven't done anything." "You have been touched by one of our own," the Sentinel replied. "She was never supposed to love a human. Her actions have marked you for death." Ethan's blood ran cold. "Where is she? What have you done to her?" The Sentinel's expression softened, just for a moment. "She is being punished for her transgression. But if you wish to see her again, you must come with us." Without waiting for a response, the Sentinel turned and walked away, leaving Ethan with no choice but to follow. He didn't know what awaited him, but he knew he couldn't abandon Lyra, not after what they had shared. The Sentinel led Ethan to a hidden docking bay, where a sleek, alien ship awaited. As they boarded, Ethan couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. He was venturing into the unknown, into a world that was not meant for humans. The journey was short but disorienting. The ship traveled through a series of wormholes, each one bending reality in ways that made Ethan's head spin. When they finally emerged, they were in orbit around a planet that glowed with an eerie, otherworldly light. "This is our home," the Sentinel said. "The world of the Etherians." As they descended to the surface, Ethan was struck by the planet's beauty. It was a place of shimmering forests and crystalline rivers, where the very air seemed to hum with energy. But there was also a sense of danger, a feeling that he was trespassing in a realm that was not his own. The Sentinel led him to a vast, ancient temple, its walls covered in intricate carvings that seemed to shift and change as he looked at them. Inside, he found Lyra. She was lying on a stone altar, her body surrounded by a faint, pulsating light. She looked weak, her skin pale and her eyes dim. But when she saw Ethan, she managed a faint smile. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered. "They'll kill you." "I couldn't leave you," Ethan said, kneeling beside her. "Tell me what's going on. Why is this happening?" Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "My people, we are bound by ancient laws. We are not allowed to form attachments to other species. When I fell for you, I broke those laws. And now, they will punish us both." Before Ethan could respond, the Sentinel stepped forward. "The sentence has been passed," it said. "You will both be erased, your existence wiped from the cosmos." Ethan's heart pounded as he realized the gravity of the situation. He had to find a way to save Lyra, and himself. But how could he fight an entire race of beings who controlled the very fabric of reality? As the Sentinels prepared to carry out their sentence, Ethan's mind raced. He knew he couldn't overpower them, but maybe there was another way. He turned to Lyra, his voice urgent. "Is there anything we can do? Any way to appeal to them?" Lyra hesitated, then nodded. "There is one thing. The Etherians value balance above all else. If we can prove that our love does not disrupt that balance, they may spare us." "How do we do that?" Ethan asked. "We must show them that our bond is pure, that it strengthens the cosmos rather than weakens it," Lyra replied. "But it will require great sacrifice." Ethan didn't hesitate. "I'll do whatever it takes." Lyra reached out and took his hand, her touch sending a surge of energy through him. Together, they stood and faced the Sentinels. "We ask for the right to prove ourselves," Lyra said, her voice strong despite her weakness. "Let us show you that our love is not a threat to the balance." The Sentinels exchanged glances, then nodded. "Very well. You will be tested." The trial was unlike anything Ethan had ever experienced. He and Lyra were placed in a chamber where their minds were linked, their thoughts and emotions laid bare. They were forced to relive their deepest fears and darkest moments, but through it all, they held on to each other, their bond growing stronger with each passing second. When the trial ended, the Sentinels were silent. Finally, one of them spoke. "You have shown that your love is true," it said. "It does not disrupt the balance. Instead, it enhances it. You are free to go." Ethan and Lyra embraced, their hearts filled with relief and joy. But as they left the temple, Ethan knew that their journey was far from over. They had defied an ancient law, and there would be consequences. But for now, they had each other, and that was enough. As they boarded the ship that would take them back to Eclipse 9, Ethan looked at Lyra and smiled. "Whatever happens next, we'll face it together." Lyra nodded, her eyes shining with love. Together. And as the ship soared into the stars, they knew that their love had changed the cosmos forever.